Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In this very demonstration, we're going to set up Nessus vulnerability scanner, and we're going to use it to scan systems that we have in our home lab. The lab will be on a virtual box. It could also be on a VMware, whichever one you prefer. But at the end of this presentation, we're going to know how to set up Nessus and how to use it to scan systems that we have in our network. This video, I don't want it to be so long, and so I've decided to break it up into 3 parts. First part of this video, we're going to discuss what Nessus is and why we should use it. And then second part of this video, we're going to see how we can set it up real quick and then get a license from Nessus to use to activate the software and then begin to use it. And then in the final parts, we're going to scan systems that we have in our home lab. So within the VirtualBox platform that we are using, we've got an OWASP broken web application, which is a web server, and we also have a Windows Active Directory. So we're going to be scanning these 2 systems. And that's what we're going to accomplish in this presentation. So if you already know what Nessus is and why we should use it, you can skip this first part of this video and jump straight up to the second part, where we'll be setting it up. And if you already have it set up, but you haven't done any scan yet, then you can jump the part 2 of the video and move to the final part where we'll be doing scanning using Nessus. All right. So if you're excited about this project, let's jump in. Okay, guys, welcome back. Let's discuss what Nessus is and why we need to use it as security professionals. So to begin with, Nessus is a tool developed and maintained by tenable.io. So Tenable is a company that maintains and manages Nessus. So Nessus is a vulnerability scanner. We use Nessus to scan our IT systems in order to figure out vulnerabilities that exist within those systems. So it's a vuln scanner and is one of the world famous vulnerability scanners that we have in the market. So why do we need Nessus? Why do we use it? Well, there are so many answers to this as to why security professionals use Nessus. It's a very powerful tool, as I mentioned earlier. It helps IT professionals or system administrators or security professionals to identify vulnerabilities before attackers do so. So it helps you to see weaknesses that exist in your IT environment before the bad guys discover that ahead of you. Apart from that, Nessus can help us to automate compliance checks, right? So if you want to check for compliance, like CIS benchmarks or the PCI DSS benchmark, then Nessus can help you to automate these compliance checks. It also helps us to gain visibility into our network assets. So with Nessus, you'll be able to kind of like have an inventory, like you'll be able to have an idea of all the devices that you have within your enterprise. Okay, so it helps you to gain visibility into your IT systems. It also helps us to audit configuration and permissions that have been assigned to our users within the network. So permissions and configuration audits can be carried out using Nessus. And one good thing about Nessus is that apart from identifying vulnerabilities, checking compliance, gaining visibility, etc., it helps us to prioritize remediation efforts based on severity of discovered vulnerabilities. So apart from discovering the vulnerabilities, there is what Nessus uses, which is CVSS, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System. Is going to help Nessus to rate the severity of the vulnerabilities in terms of critical, high, medium, low, and informational. And this helps us to know where we need to prioritize, where we need to focus our effort in terms of remediating these vulnerabilities. So in a situation whereby we have very critical vulnerability, of course, we need to attend to that first before we attend to medium or high vulnerabilities, okay? So that is why we use Nessus. You take a look at here, we kind of like have an asset inventory where we have a holistic view of what we are protecting, right? And once we have all the assets in the picture, we can now carry out an assessment, which is a part of risk assessment. We want to see what vulnerabilities are facing these assets. And after that has been identified and the vulnerabilities have been rated in terms of their severity, then we can now patch those vulnerabilities. That's where patch management comes in. So we have to apply patches or security updates to fix those discovered vulnerabilities. One thing I want to point out here is when you are using automated tools like Nessus, you are using automated tools to scan for vulnerabilities, you're only going to be looking out for well-known vulnerabilities. These tools cannot discover any zero-day vulnerabilities. It's going to only discover well-known vulnerabilities because this tool uses what is called plugins or signatures to detect vulnerabilities, and is going to work with the vulnerability database. Well, whenever we use Nessus in our environment, what do we look out for? We want to look out for weaknesses that exist. These weaknesses can be misconfiguration. Your IT people can make mistakes, they can misconfigure certain parameters, and that can expose our systems to attack. There could also be missing patches. Some operating systems or some software that will run within our systems might be out of date, and that can introduce vulnerability. So Nessus can help us to discover which systems on our network are missing certain patches, and that can now give us an insight as to which systems need patches so that we can keep those systems up to date. We can also discover systems with weak passwords, passwords that are using dictionary words or they are not compliant with password security best practice. Uppercase, lowercase numbers, and special characters. If this criteria is not met, then that password will be considered as a weak password. We can also use Nessus to discover sensitive data exposure. So if you have some sensitive data or confidential data and they are being exposed, Nessus can help us to discover this weakness. So you could see it's a comprehensive tool that we can use to manage our IT assets, scan them for vulnerabilities, and then it's going to suggest the remediation steps that we need to take to fix those vulnerabilities. There are different versions of Nessus. The one I'm going to be using in this demo will be Nessus Essential. The Nessus Essential is a free tool, and actually you only allowed to scan 16 IP addresses. So IP address is given to each device that we have on the network. So if you are scanning 16 IP addresses, automatically it means that you are scanning 16 devices. And that is what the Essential can do for you. It cannot scan more than 16 IP addresses. The Nessus Professional has unlimited number of IP scans, but the downside to Nessus Professional is that it's a paid version of Nessus. However, Nessus can give you 7 days trial where you can try out the solution with all the full features and then see if it's a good fit for your own environment before you go ahead and pay for that particular product. So unlimited IPs can be scanned and it's got some advanced features. Nessus Essential is suitable for students or maybe in a small office, home office environment. So if you are not scanning more than 16 devices and you are a small environment, you can go with the Essential, which is free, as long as you don't go beyond 16 devices. Professional comes with advanced features, but then we are going to pay for it. And then we'll have Nessus Experts. So the Nessus Experts is basically an advanced version of Nessus. What's separated from the Nessus Professional is the scope of Nessus Experts. With Nessus Experts, we can scan the on-premises devices as well as the devices that we have in the cloud, AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, etc. So we can use Nessus Experts to scan our infrastructure as a code. We can use it to scan our CI/CD pipeline, our Terraform, AWS cloud formations, etc. So you see where we can use Nessus Experts. We can use it both on-premises and in the cloud. IAC misconfiguration detection can be carried out using Nessus. So if you have infrastructure as a code and there is a misconfiguration in that your config file, we can use Nessus Expert to scan it and figure out that misconfiguration. You can use it to scan for cloud misconfigurations. You can use it to scan containers. You can use it to scan external facing assets for risk visible to attackers. So that's where Expert comes in. We can use Nessus Professional for on-premises, but then it has no support for infrastructure as a code, and no cloud native posture scanning is supported in Professional Edition of Nessus. Now, I have a typical network diagram here. We've got a server. This could be an AD server, an Active Directory server. You have a client, which is representing an employee within this organization. We've got a switch where all these devices are connected to. And then you have a Kali Linux also connected to this network. And on this Kali, you're going to install Nessus. With Nessus running on this Kali machine, you should be able to scan the system for vulnerabilities, scan the server, scan the switch, scan the router, and even scan the firewall. So you have a firewall here, which obviously will connect you to the ISP, so you can have internet connection. All of these devices that are interconnected here can be scanned with Nessus if you have it installed on your Kali machine. That's an overview of what Nessus is, different versions of Nessus, why we use Nessus, and why it's a very popular tool in the cybersecurity domain. In the second video, we're going to get into the lab. We'll be setting up Nessus in a Linux operating system on a VirtualBox environment. So let's jump into that part 2 so we can begin the setup. Thanks for watching, and see you in the part 2 of this video.